Hey, everybody. Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another brand new episode. Today's features the return of my friends, Jeff and Jenn Nichols. You may also know them as 10 Cents. Huge supporters of St. Louis music, and they recently had some hard times a couple weeks back, and stopped by to talk about what they've been dealing with. And if anybody's been following along with them online, you've probably seen some of the stories, but Jeff had a heart attack and nearly died, and we are grateful that he's still here with us. And but this is it recaps some of their story, and so fair warning, there are some some heavy subject matter in this episode, but I thought it was really nice to talk about it with them and get this information out and possibly save somebody else's life. So hopefully you enjoy this episode and share it with a friend that might need to hear it. And but yeah, hope you enjoy it. And as always, Rock Paper Podcast is brought to you by Friendship Brewing Company in Wentzville, Missouri, serving up all your craft beer needs. Over 25 rotating taps every day out there, and all kinds of delicious beverages. You got your burgers and flatbread pizzas, pretzels, salads, all kinds of tasty eats. And you can get some great live music out there every weekend. On Friday night, you got James Birtles, February 2nd. And on Saturday night, Fireside Duo, February 3rd. And over the summer, they launched their Fly High location out in Flint Hill, Missouri. Same great beer, all new dining experience out of their Fly High kitchen. So come out and see what's going on out there at the Fly High location. Friday, live music from Josh Littig, February 2nd. And Buddy Entwistle, Saturday, February 3rd. Just recently, they launched another third location in Hannibal, Missouri. And you can come out there, pick up some Sidekick barbecue, and have a cold drink and have a great time at Friendship Brewing Company. You can find all their information at friendshipbrewingcompany.com, including their concert calendar, beer menu, and food menu. And get plugged in with them on Facebook and Instagram for more info. Keep an eye out for Fish Fry Fridays coming up real soon. Get plugged in on their email listing for more info too. friendshipbrewingcompany.com. If you need anything from me, you can always find me at rockpaperpodcast.com. Hit me up on the socials. Email me at rockpaperpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. And with that out of the way, sit back, relax, enjoy this special episode with Jeff and Jenn Nichols.
A podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio. It's on the internet. Does that make sense? Uh-huh. Yeah. That's also like my mom. It makes it sound more confusing, doesn't it? It sounds like this.
Rock Paper Podcast.
This is beat paper, paper covers rock. Rock beats is the Shane covers non-stop. Never know what new kind of guest that he's got coming at you. Live and direct on the spot. Could be rock, folk, country, or hip-hop, jazz. All kind of folks that he has. Could be an artist or a comedian to make you laugh on the
Rock Paper Podcast.
double-decker fudge round, rolling round town. Shane coming at you live and direct from ground zero. He's your hero, he's your bestie. Rock Paper Podcast with Shane Presley.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Hanging out today with the returning guest, Jeff and Jenn Nichols.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Welcome back, guys.
Glad to be here.
literally glad to be here.
Yeah, we I really like I told you guys before we hit record, and just been doing the show a long time, and I just really been wanting to do more with friends and stuff. I've always wanted to have my mom on here, and she always just put it off, like like, what am I going to talk about, kind of stuff, and and then she's gone, and like these I think about these things, like I don't want to ever keep thinking that we're going to have tomorrow, and this was a great reminder that it could be gone and it could be over in a minute. We never know. So I'm thankful that that's not the case. That but this is a great reminder of that. Like we just never know when our time is up and stuff. So
absolutely.
And
if you're ever presented with a chance to do a podcast or some kind of recording, just jump in and do it. Like somebody will help you and guide you through it, and you'll get through it, and then it'll be the coolest thing you ever did. And then you'll just want to do more.
When you just said you wanted to get your mom on, and sad to hear you weren't able to do that, because that's I've seen some podcasts where the mothers and daughter, and there's quite a few of them out there that, and I like that concept. I like that idea, because you're right, man. You never know.
Sure.
You're not guaranteed tomorrow. So take each day as it is.
And we've been, I've been fortunate enough to record some of these with, like some of our friends that have passed on, Matt Amalong and some others along the way. But it's just like, and I'm thankful that I had those recordings, of us talking and having good memories to preserved on the mics and stuff. So
and just to record that voice and to be able to play that back and hear their voice. That's something after my dad passed away, I don't have recordings of him. I did thankfully take some pictures, so I do have pictures, but I've gone through voicemails and just record, and I just don't have anything with his recorded with his recorded voice. So I just I don't get that. And I feel like, when you probably would make me cry when I heard it, but it would be nice to have. So
Does he have a voicemail set up still?
He never had a cell phone.
He was so country. Cell phones didn't work out there.
I know some people that they keep calling their voicemail and just to keep hearing it, but that kind of thing.
No, I wish he did. Yeah. And that was one thing. If you called him on a landline,
right?
At his house, and that was lucky to catch somebody, because they were always out on the property doing work and stuff. So you always had to call certain times to know that you would catch them. Right. Otherwise, you're just a random luck of whether someone's there or not.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, we wanted so really like what kind of kicked all this was in gear. You guys just went through some stuff, and obviously anybody that's friends with you guys have been following along a little bit through the internet. But I thought it might help kind of highlight some of this stuff on here, and but I guess all of it starts on January 5th, not very long ago.
Friday, January 5th,
Yeah, I can tell you, first off, thank you to everybody that reached out to us. Thank you for all of the messages, the phone calls, just the overwhelming amount of people that came up to the hospital. Unfortunately, I don't remember anything from probably January 5th that afternoon till when it's the 7th. No, was it the 7th I came out? Well,
you don't remember anything until the morning of the 9th, I think.
So 4 days of I don't remember anything. So Jen will tell you a lot of it, but once we get to where I wake up and start remembering, I can tell you all about it. But I do not remember Friday, January 5th, other than from what I've been told.
Let's start with that morning. You guys wake up like any other Friday?
Yeah,
We
it was
worked
a
that
normal
day.
day. It was a work day. So we own our own business. It's like radio's like new to me now. Like I didn't do this
forget how to
before.
do this?
Yeah, I can't talk anymore.
It's like riding a bike, right?
So we woke up like a normal day and we got ready for work. We had just bid and it was accepted for a pretty huge job that we
First job of the year.
that we were starting, and it was
first
going to be
job.
our first big job of
2024.
2024. Yeah, and so it was off a Telegraph, so we got to head out there and we had been cutting in. It was a paint job, and we kind of cut in almost the whole house Thursday and Friday because we had worked on it. First day was Thursday, second day was Friday. But it was a scheduled concert day for Outrun the Fall. They were having a show at Diamond, so we got up extra early that day, and so we could end our workday early because we always help with load-in and stuff with them. So a concert with them for us starts at 4. I think we met there at 4:45, 4:45 p.m. So I think we ended our workday by between noon and 2. I don't remember exactly. We were home by 2.
But I remember not feeling good that day too.
Yeah. So
I had kind of prior to this all happening, I was having issues where I wasn't feeling good. I was having pains in my chest and was taking it for heartburn, taking it for granted that I never had the shooting pain down my arm. It was always like right in my throat area, just
like
right,
the middle of your
yeah,
chest.
like the middle. Yeah. And I would sit there and take it for just back pains I've gone to chiropractors. I've done all that. So I would take those pains as, well, I'm working. I do a lot of physical work. I've done it ever since I was.
You've gone to the doctor for the pains and they've put you on indigestion medicine. Like he's had a stress test. He had a stress test done 4 years ago at 40. And there was
always
nothing.
knew something. I always had a feeling that a heart attack was going to get me. Kind of one of those. I swear I've never said it out loud up until this point in time. Now that it has happened, but
You've said it to me.
I've said it to her, but I haven't.
He literally has told me within the last 5 to 7 years that he thought, like he almost had a premonition. He's like, I just feel like I'm going to die young of a heart attack.
Yep.
So at 40, he was like, I'm 40. I need to go get checked out. So he told the doctor that he wants the stress test. And they were like, you don't need a stress test. You're 40.
Why you need this? You're
and
too
he's
young.
like,
And I'm like,
just feel like it. Like, I just feel like it needs to be checked out. So he did this stress test. So this was 4 years ago. He's 44 now. And everything came back good.
They said I had the heart of a 20-year-old, and that I was good, that my numbers were all good, that there was no. So I don't know. I mean,
he didn't have high blood pressure. He doesn't have high cholesterol. He's not diabetic. He's not overweight. So, after all this is done, you get all these papers and it tells you all the things that lead up to it. Well, Jeff doesn't fit any of that criteria. So we'll get into that. So we did search. We searched for a bunch of answers afterwards, I think, to find out why. And we'll get into a little bit of that in the recovery. But as far as that day went, we woke up normal. It was a pretty normal day. He had, while working, mentioned just kind of not feeling good, just a little.
I was having a lot of pressure in my chest. I mean, I was definitely having, now that I look back on it, the symptoms, but
again, when you're checked out at 40 and everything's good, and now you're only 44,
I wouldn't expect to be having
right. So I feel like I also need to say, for those of you that don't know, I work in the medical field, and I work at an assisted living nursing home as needed now that we started our own business, but I've done that for 15 years. So geriatric patients are like my forte that I've done for 15 years. So I know the signs of a heart attack. I've been there when people are stroking out, having seizures and all these things that happen. But again, nothing was flagging me at him being 44 years old that these were heart conditions, that it was a heart condition that he was having, or even leading up to a heart attack. Until looking back now, I can say, yes, this day was this week, what happened this week 3 weeks ago was, and actually probably a couple years leading up to it there's some things that now I can point out, but nothing that I would have figured out to be able to prevent anything from happening.
I would have never gone to I've never had a reason to be like, I need to go to the hospital. I'm having these. It was always just stuff that I've kind of dealt with. And again, like she said, I don't fit the criteria. It really threw me I couldn't believe it when I woke up and I'm like, where am I? What am I? What happened? Couldn't believe what happened. But yeah, so Friday.
So you guys made it to Diamond.
Yeah.
So we made it to Diamond. So that was going to be a big show for us. Around the Fall was playing with Trapped. It was actually a big show for them. They played with Trapped and Mr. Malone. And we are actually friends with Pete, the bass player in Trapped from California. I'm really good friends with his girlfriend. Hey, Barb. And
Babs.
We were really excited to see him because they were in from California.
We hadn't seen Pete since 2 years.
And I had a present to give to Pete to take back to Babs. And it was... we were really excited. We were really excited for the show.
I wish I could remember it.
So we got there at 4:45 and we helped load a little bit of equipment. Jeff just really wasn't, he was starting, by the time we got there, I feel like he was really starting to go downhill now looking at it. He was really trying to hang in there, but he was just very uncomfortable.
Apparently a lot of, like Brandon was saying, that just the look in my face, like people were starting to tell I wasn't feeling good, but I don't remember. Like apparently Brandon said I just went and sat at a table and put my head down and I don't know. Jen said I went out to the car and apparently throwing up and getting,
So about 5, I want to say between 5:30 and 6 probably. He told me that he was going to go outside. And at this time we had set up the merch table. And so everything was out. The money bag was out. And I tend to try not to leave the table. They had done a meet and greet. So there were a handful of guests there. Actual like regular concert attendees that they just, after the meet and greet, just kind of let them linger around, which was fine. But for the most part, the doors weren't open yet. So it was just the bands and the band setting up, our close friends and all that stuff. So about between 5:30 and 6, Jeff tells me that he doesn't feel good. He's getting nauseous, feels like he's going to throw up. So he's going to go ahead and go outside, get some fresh air, sit in the van for a little while. Time-wise, I want to say he was out there maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then he came back inside and found me. And he said, man, I did get sick out there and I started throwing up, and it was just like, after I threw up everything, then I was just dry heaving, and it's like, it almost wouldn't stop, and I couldn't, there's nothing coming out anymore. But he's like, I'm okay now. I got it to stop for a little bit. He was like, but I don't know. He's like, I don't really want to be in here because I don't want to have to like go to the bathroom and get sick in here. And as he's telling me this, he's like, well, I feel like I'm going to get sick again. So I'm just going to go back outside, basically where he felt more comfortable. So I would say definitely by 6:15 at this time, he went back outside, and it was only a couple minutes this time. And I don't know. I started putting things together. So I went and told Brandon, I said, hey, Jeff's outside, everything's set up at the merch table. I'm going to go outside and check on him and just make sure he's okay. And so I get out to the car, or to the van. Jeff's sitting in the driver's seat, and he was alert and oriented. We were talking. He wasn't feeling well, definitely could tell. I don't remember
any of this.
But he was talking. He was awake. And the heaving wouldn't stop, and that was starting to concern me. And like, it was still like his body was just, I don't know. It was almost like I've never experienced anything like it. And like I said previously, being in the medical field, I've been on scene of not many, but several heart attacks,
right.
enough to know. And this is not one that I had seen. So I really didn't know that vomiting and nausea was a sign of a heart attack, which is so...
They're so general on what
Yeah.
the signs of a heart attack
Yeah.
is. And I think that's why we never thought, again, because I'm not at the age that you would expect to have them. I don't fit the qualities and mentalities or whatever of having it. So yeah, it was you going through it. You learn a lot of what the symptom. And now that you look back on it, knowing what the symptoms were, you can see it building up.
Yeah. So at this point, the heaving subsided a little bit. The guys from I'll Run the Fall, everybody came out, and they were outside of my window. We were all conversing together. We smoked a cigarette. Brandon left to go get batteries because
Josh forgot them, or somebody needed
Debo
batteries.
needed batteries. Somebody needed batteries. So Brandon went right around the corner to get batteries. And everybody else headed back inside. So at this point, it's me and Jeff. And nobody else was around. Doors weren't open yet. So really no one was really like coming yet.
Thank God.
The
It was pretty
parking
empty
lot-
parking lot still.
I could have used some help.
Yeah.
All right.
The parking lot was really empty at this point. And it was almost like instantly as they walked away, he just started this heaving and this and it was almost like he wasn't breathing in between these heaves. And at this point I had already asked him if he wanted to go. First of all, I had asked him if he wanted to go home. I was going to drive him home and drop him off at home and go back up there. Had I done that, I would have came back home and found him dead in my bed.
Right.
So luckily that didn't work out. So as that's happening, I said, do you want to go to the hospital? Because at this point, I'm still thinking that I could get him there. Not knowing where we're getting ready, what road we're getting ready to go down. And no, he didn't want to go. Mind you, we don't have insurance. So I have to think that in the back of his head, he's like, we don't have the money to do that, regardless of what he was feeling or going on. And that sucks when you don't have insurance. You don't, you try to stay out of the hospitals. You try to stay out of the doctors.
Yeah. Try not
We've
to have
been
heart
able to
attacks.
maintain our medications and our regular doctor's appointments and all of those things. But as far as emergency rooms and things like that, we tend to try to stay out of and just not accumulate all those medical bills. And so his answer was no. And he just, again, I'm going to express this heaving because it wasn't like anything I've ever experienced in my life. And it was to the point to where he's doing it so much. We're not just sitting in the van because nothing's coming up. So he doesn't have to be like bending over or anything. And it's almost like he's not breathing in between it. And like, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. And all of a sudden, and for anyone that works in my line of work, of what the death rattle is. And I hear him take a breath like that. And then that's it. I didn't hear anything else of his breathing. And so, of course, I started like looking more intently at him, and his eyes had rolled in the back of his head, and his tongue wasn't sticking out of his mouth, but his mouth was open and his tongue was definitely diagonal to where technically it was. So even then in my mind, I'm like, he's having a seizure. So I went immediately from wife mode to medical mode. Like I almost turned off that he's even my husband. And I bent right over and I smacked his face for the, are you okay? Are you okay?
This is where she took advantage of all the years she wanted to smack me.
Sure.
She smacked me around apparently a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's when I didn't respond. That's when she started.
Right.
Checking for a pulse, and there was no pulse. So I hopped out of the passenger side. As I hopped out of the passenger side, I'm dialing 911 on my phone. I get to the driver's side. I immediately threw his seat back. 911, it rang 6 times before anyone answered. I have never in my life experienced that. I've always called and almost before you get through a full ring, it's picked up on. I don't know. I was super focused on that. So I know exactly how many rings it was before they answered because I'm like, great, no one's going to answer. And so as I get around to the driver's side and open the driver's side door, I threw his seat back because I knew I wasn't going to be able to pull him out and do anything. Also, as I'm calling 911 and opened his driver door, my phone miraculously connected to Bluetooth. So that was perfect for me because I could throw my phone. 911's on the speakers through the car. And so I had both of my hands. So I had already started CPR before they even got me on the phone with medics. Then when they get me on the phone with medics, they start going through trying to tell me how to do CPR. And I just let them because at that point I didn't have time to explain myself. I was just already doing it. So compressions had already started.
This is how you do it. I'm already doing it. I'm good. Yeah. Thank you.
Time wise, I think I did compressions for about 10 minutes on my own. Again, there was nobody around.
Well, and this time,
my phone's being occupied.
Brandon was coming back. I mean, our friends were starting to show back up too because
right at the 10-minute mark, paramedics were starting to come in the parking lot. I had given enough direction where they knew exactly where to find us.
And this is still in the van?
He was still in the van. Yeah. Everything happened in the van.
I hate that van, by the way,
now. I was able to tell them, we're in a black van in the parking lot. I'm throwing my hazards on so you can find us. So I had, everyone's like, how did you not panic? I don't want anyone to think that I didn't panic, but through the panic, I was able to keep my senses.
She's the hero. Sure. Yeah. Everybody says I'm the miracle. She, in my opinion, is the miracle. And because, I mean, the cardiologist
and I feel like the EMTs and the cardiologist is the hero because if they say, had I not started when I started, he never would have made it to the hospital.
So there was 45 minutes that I was out. 45 minutes of CPR. She did about 10 or 15 minutes of it. Shout out to our friend Don. Don jumped in and took over when she couldn't do it anymore. And Don did it until the paramedics got there. And then the paramedics did it for probably another 20, 25 minutes. I technically flatlined 4 times.
Theoretically, you flatlined on me, which is when I started the CPR. And then once the medics got him, between the medics and the hospital, he flatlined 3 more times. He was paddled.
Oh, man. You ever get paddled, boy? I look like I had almost like waffle iron marks.
So and I had unfortunately, you can't show pictures on this, but I'll show Shane a picture because
it burned me. So, I had paddle burns from where they shocked me.
They burn you and then they turn into blisters.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And they're like these little bitty circles.
But I had them on the front. So they would paddle my front.
When he woke up, the blisters had opened and stuck to the sheets on the bed because
it was bad.
And he didn't know. And he's like, what's this? So
I woke up asking a lot of questions.
Right.
So I ride in the ambulance with him. Well, okay. Also, I got interrogated, and I know why now, but at that point in time, it was offensive.
Sure.
And I was pissed because how dare you? But we were in a parking lot. We were at a venue. It was just the 2 of us. They wanted to know what kind of drugs we were doing. They want to know if they needed to hit him with Narcan.
Yeah, and she's like, no.
And they weren't taking my no for a good answer. So then that was the medics. Well, then they escorted me to the front of the ambulance, and then I was almost re-interrogated by the police because now officers are sitting at the door and they want to know, and again, they have to know, and I get that. But I also was like, why didn't they believe me when I've like, if I knew that it was drugs and that you needed the Narcan and then a Narcan would save you.
Right.
But and then I had to think, they've been in this situation before and somebody has lied about it.
Sure.
And because they don't want to get themselves in trouble or whatever the case may be. So I'm over it now.
Yeah.
But the day of and the couple days leading up after that was pretty intense for me because I knew it wasn't drugs.
They wanted to know what drugs we were on, which was none. But then when I get to the hospital, boy, I got some of the best drugs ever. Apparently, too bad I don't remember them. But I was getting ketamine and Propofol and all sorts of good stuff.
So now we're
in a coma.
They pulled him out of the car, got him on the gurney, got him in the ambulance. They put me in the front seat of the ambulance. I haven't been in an ambulance in a really long time, and apparently they're super high tech now. And so when you sit in the front seat, there's a video camera, a monitor right in front of you, and I'm just watching them work on him. And like his arm was like hanging off the side of the gurney, and I'm just watching him like not come back. And they're just working and we're not going anywhere. So they have a whole perimeter blocked off of us and not letting any of our friends through because by this time,
right, everybody's out.
Todd, I think, was in the car when it was happening, which I didn't know. And then like went inside. Maybe Josh was in the car. I don't remember who it was, but he kind of picked up on what was going. So he went inside to get everyone else, and then everybody else was trying to come outside to see what happened, but then they were blocking everybody off. So at this time, our friends have no idea what's happening. I mean, this is my best friend in the whole world that knows literally everything, and all he can do is stand and watch and know that the ambulance isn't moving and why aren't they taking him? Well, fact of the matter is an ambulance can't move and won't move until somebody is stable enough for them. So basically they were going to stay there long enough to where they knew they couldn't get him back and they would have to call it right there or stabilize him enough to be able to. And even when they started moving, the guys in the back were yelling about how, be careful, go slow. Like, I guess certain bumps and speeds and stuff could have, made
who knows,
could have changed anything, but so they obviously got him stable enough to get him to the hospital. I know there was epinephrine given, like lots of it. I know there was lots of paddles given in the ambulance, or paddles done. I know
6 broken ribs, lots of CPR.
I know there was 4
lines.
4 EMT men that were taking turns doing the CPR. So he wants to blame me for the 6 broken ribs.
I do not. No.
I blame the manly EMTs just to take that off of me.
I think everybody else has blamed you for breaking my ribs, being the aggression again, where she slapped me around a little bit. Is he really out? And you slap the person around, and you're like, okay, this is no joke. And then joke is that she took all of her aggression and pounded on my chest, but she does know what she's doing, and I really do think it was the other guy. I don't know. I don't know.
I know in my experience, generally you can feel it. Again, my adrenaline was probably a little higher with that being my husband. Talking about going back to me panicking, that was kind of my panic. I am even more calm when it's not my husband. It's just something I've always been able to do in an emergency situation, and my nursing team loves it because I can handle a scene.
So you get to the hospital?
We get to the hospital and they take him straight in. So when you get to a hospital in an ambulance, if you've ever gone by ambulance, the first room to the left is your critical room. That's where that's your emergency triage of the most emergency patients stop there first. If if it's just a minor thing, they'll take you to a regular room. They don't stop you there. So they offered me to go in with them. At that point, I had seen enough. I don't want to say that I lost all faith, because I always have some faith, but I was already starting to prepare.
There was a point from the stories I've heard from Jen and my parents and family that they all had to cope with the fact that I may not have make it. Honestly, even the cardiologist said my chances of making it were slim to none. That's why they call me a miracle. And it's like, I think she's the miracle for doing what she did in the line of, stress and fear. She kept her cool. And I mean, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. They
I almost
said
passed out on you.
They said that. You did.
And we both would have died.
Yeah, that would have not been good.
I'm pretty sure the whole time I'm like, you're not fucking leaving me as I'm doing the compressions. Like, I'm sure I had
instead of
some
doing it to
Right. 1, 2,
staying
3,
alive.
4.
And she's like, you're not dying on me. You're not dying, fucker. Stop it.
So yeah, I had my few choice words with him.
Sure.
So we get to the hospital. They offered me, like I said, to go into that first triage room, and I said no. I think I'll stand out here.
By this time, my family's showing up too, from what I understand. I mean,
when I was in the ambulance before we left the parking lot, the one and only phone call I made was to my daughter. She's 18, so I didn't feel as bad because technically she's an adult, and I couldn't have picked a better person. I mean, from that point on, she just manned so much for me. So
yeah, she did.
I don't even remember how that phone call went, but I was able to tell her that something happened to Jeff and he wasn't responsive and she needed to get a hold of his parents. His son was already here. So my daughter, his son got in a car together, and my daughter doesn't drive with anyone, and she hopped in my stepson's car as the passenger. So we know that this is serious because my daughter's now putting her life in the hands of someone that she would never. And his parents weren't answering. So come to find out, they were at a volleyball game for one of his nieces. Both of his parents, his mom and his dad, and his sister were there. And they were at the Recplex, so not far away. We didn't have any idea about this. So as the ambulance, because they had stayed in the parking lot so long trying to stabilize him, his parents made it to the hospital and were walking up as the ambulance pulled in. So I'm pretty sure it's an image that his mom will never forget, because she was standing there as they wheeled him out. And at this point, again, he's not responsive. Both of his arms, and they're still working on him, and both of his arms are limp, hanging off the side of the gurney. And when you arrive and that's the first thing you see, you just
as you say that, like, not to take away from the story, but there was my brother was in a bad car accident at I think he was 14 at the time. The guy driving had just got his license that day.
It's one of our scary. I mean, we have teenagers, so it's like one of our scariest things.
And I don't know, I'm sure they were encouraging him or whatever, but he was doing 100, rolled it off this top of this hill, started barrel rolling, wrapped the car around a tree and split the car in half. And then
Jesus,
my brother is ejected from the car, and it was a horrific thing. And then it was luckily all three made it out alive somehow. The car's looks like a tin can, but they somehow
survived.
So they airlifted my brother to Lake St. Louis first, and then they noticed that he had internal bleeding and stuff, so they were going to run him down to Cardinal Glennon.
Oh yeah, because he was 14.
And so they get him on a helicopter and taking him down there. By this point, I'd got to the hospital with my family, and I got into my dad's truck, and my dad made it to Cardinal Glen in the same time that the helicopter did, as they're bringing my brother off the helicopter and stuff. And I was just like, I mean, we were
An image that you never forget,
for sure.
right?
So I connect, was right there with them. But it's just like, man, Dad was like hauling ass down the highway trying to get there and stuff. Like,
Right.
So I imagine, same thing with your parents probably doing the same thing, and they probably just,
Yeah,
So-
well, and just the fact that they were so close.
Right.
I mean, they don't live far away anyways, but we were at Diamonds, and then the
Yeah.
Recplex is, I think,
It's all right
4
there in that
minutes
vicinity.
away,
It was
yeah.
really
Right.
crazy.
So, man, yeah, they all showed up at the same time. So the waiting room's already starting to fill up with his mom, his dad, his sister, our son, or my son, my daughter, his son. So then I also find out that
Oh man.
his daughter is on her honeymoon, like literally left Friday morning for Florida.
were
They were
10
going
hours
to
away or
Disney for
something.
their honeymoon, and they had made it to Atlanta, and we had to tell her. And then we had to make the decision with her to turn around and come home. So fortunately, right now she has missed her honeymoon, but the family's in the process of helping her reschedule, and she was able to get some things reimbursed and things like that. So they won't be out. It is rescheduled for August, and in the end that all works out for them. But yes, so she had to come home from Atlanta. So at this time I'm standing in the hallway of triage still, and they're still doing CPR, and there's a whole team of seemed 8 to 12 people in there, and paddles are still happening, and epinephrine's still happening, and nothing seems to be progressing in a manner that makes me feel good. So I knew that the time we're just adding time at this point. And at that time, I just asked to go out to the waiting room. I said, I think I need to be with my family, because I really thought the next doctor the next doctor that I seen was going to be calling it, and I needed to be with the family instead of them tell me and then go tell the family. So I go out to the family, fill them in for as much as I can of what had happened and what was going on to that point. And we just kind of sat and waited. I did the most responsible thing I could do. And I knew if they came out and told me that he didn't make it, that I was going to be in no shape to be able to console his son. And I knew that he would need someone there. So I called his mother, which is Jeff's ex-wife, and told her everything that was going on and asked her to come and be there. She showed up in the emergency room and really never left my side until he got to come home. So that's a new found. We've always been cordial, but it's a deeper friendship, I think, now. Some of the good that came out of that, we really took our kids together and just try to console them and talk them through it, and be as transparent as possible with also just being there for them. Sure. I mean, they're 18, so they're technically grown adults, but you can't prepare yourself for something like that.
Right.
So, at that time we had probably already 10, 11 people in the emergency waiting room, just waiting. Anyone that walked out or walked in, I got the feeling of dread. The first ones that walked out were 2 police officers, and they literally, my heart dropped because I just knew what they were going to tell us. And all they did was come over to ask us if we were okay and if we needed anything. And I was like, I can't do this.
You guys got
So finally somebody came out and told us, okay, back it up a little bit. Brandon shows up. Mr. is supposed to have a concert for Trapped. Brandon shows up. I had left my purse there and he brought my purse to me. And so he's in the emergency room and we're talking and I was like, you got to go back. You got to do the show. He's like, I'm not leaving you here. I'm like, you can't do this. Like he wouldn't want you to miss this show and not do it. And at this point, like doors are open and it's almost
showtime.
Like
Right.
Mr. Malone should be going on soon. And so as me and Brandon are talking, the main triage doctor at that time comes out and tells us they were able to stabilize him. They have called in the cardiologist. He's about 5 to 10 minutes away. He's generally pretty fast at getting here. As soon as the cardiologist gets here, they'll take him back for whatever surgery would have to be done. So we were able to take that breath because that was the first sign of us knowing that the first of us being told that they were able to stabilize them. So I could eliminate the dread of the he didn't make it conversation, at least at that point.
Still questionable, but
Still questionable.
at least they said I was stable. So
Yeah,
that's the good news.
They didn't give
got.
up on him.
Right.
So come to find out, he had a couple things going for him of the reasons why they didn't give up on him. One was because even from the ambulance, they were able to get some kind of rhythm. Even if it wasn't like stable, it was enough for them to keep working. Also, had he had been older, senior, 55, 65, 75, they wouldn't have continued for that long. They would have let him go. So his age he had working for him because he was young, could take it and still potentially bounce back from it is why they continued for 45 minutes. So we get that word so everybody can kind of, I remember, I hit my knees in the middle of the waiting room. I am not a public prayer. I'm not I believe in my higher power. I believe in the good juju. I believe in, the universe aligning for you. I believe in good vibes. I'm not outwardly spoken about it or anything, but I know that I hit my knees right there and I just prayed for everything to work out one way or another. At that point, if that meant that I had to bring my husband home and he was going to be a complete invalid and brain dead, or, that would have,
chance of that too, they said.
Right.
Yeah. So, many things going through my head at this time. We know nothing. So the cardiologist gets there, goes in, finds out what's going on, checks him out, comes out and tells us there's two things. He can take him back, check it out. If it's a stent, they can do a stent right there. If it is more than a stent, such as a bypass open heart surgery, they would have to transfer him to MOBAP. Because he didn't do that specific cardiologist didn't do that there.
He didn't do open heart. He just did stents.
He just did the stent. So luckily they took Jeff back right away. And I would say in less than an hour, they came back and said that they got his stent in. His heart is functioning great. And, from there, he is going to ICU.
But they kept me out too. They kept me knocked out for 2 days? 2 full days I was in a coma. They kept me medically induced in a coma for the first 48 to 56 hours, something like that.
It was 52 total hours. But So the cardiologist then comes out and tells us, so we're just getting good news after good news. Like, first of all, the fact that he made it through 45 minutes of CPR was the first blessing miracle. The second one was that that it was only a stent needed, and that was the cardiologist that could only, he only did the stent. So luckily he didn't have to transfer out.
Right.
The cards fell into our hands.
And then
just
with
right.
the stent, I mean, he was amazed at how well his heart started working immediately after the stent was put in. So now we are in ICU. They walk the family, or they had walked us from the ER to the cath lab waiting room, where we got to sit a little more comfortable in just our family and wait for the surgery to actually be done. And they would come in, he came in and talked to us. And then from the cath waiting room, when he was finished with that and went to ICU, the doctor was like, I'm probably doing this too soon. I always get in trouble for doing this, but I'm walking you up there. And then as soon as they're ready for you, you'll be able to walk right into his room, but only two of you. So me and his son go in this little closet meeting room, which happened to be right across from his ICU room. And we're thinking that you were going to, just in a couple minutes, we're just going to get to go in there. And they're not telling us anything at this time, but 2 hours later, they let us go into his ICU room, and it took them 2 hours to stabilize him once he got to ICU. So that was the wait there. The doctor, I mean, he called it. He's like, I always do this too soon and I always get yelled at. But
he was really nice. The doctor,
Yeah.
Dr. Missler.
Dr. Missler is his cardiologist. So he's an awesome doctor out of Barnes Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone needs a heart doctor, we 100% recommend him. So we I go into ICU and he has tubes just breathing for him, and he's out, and he just doesn't look like himself. And Leighton, Jeff's son, had already walked back to the waiting room whenever I got to go in there, and I almost think everything happened exactly the way that it needed to. So I was able to see Jeff and know, and then go back to the waiting room and be like, Leighton, I need to talk to you about what you're about to see, because this isn't a state that you've ever probably seen anyone in. He's not opening his eyes. He's not talking to you. He's not responding. He's not going to. And at this point, we don't know if he ever will. So then those are the conversations the doctors start having with us, like 45 minutes of no oxygen to the brain. It only takes 3 to 5 minutes for brain damage to start setting in. So there's a possibility that he may never wake up from this and be completely brain dead. And then those are conversations that we have to go forward on. What steps do we want to take? So the very first day, definitely the first night into the first day, it was a lot of family conversations of what that could possibly look like and how far we were going to go and how far would Jeff want to go. And the very, very hard conversations that you don't expect to have to be having.
Had you two ever had those conversations at all? Like, I know you mentioned it, like you always felt like a heart attack, but
yeah, as far as the hard things, I mean, I know we had conversations, like we both know that we want to be cremated, so I knew that there wouldn't be like full services and things like that. But as far as like life decisions, like being brain dead, and would you want to stay on that, or would you want me to take? I feel like we know each other kind of inside and out, to where like I would know the answer without him having to say it. But yeah, I don't think that those were conversations that we had personally had. I know that I have a DNR. Watching this situation, I don't know that I want to carry a DNR at 40 years old, because that could have been me.
Right.
And then they wouldn't have brought me back. And then I would just be gone when I had every ability to be brought back, if that makes sense. It really puts some other things into perspective for me, because I was always like, no way do I want CPR. I don't want the broken ribs. If I'm going to die, then I'm meant to die right then and just let me go. Also not thinking that something would happen at our age.
Which is really weird. And I've said it since it's happened, that I can't wrap my head around the fact that I don't remember any of it. I don't remember, like, Friday's a blur, and I don't remember, but the fact that I could have never woke up, I wouldn't have known any different. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
There was no...
So he gets a lot of the questions like, did you see the light? Did you see the pearly gates?
I did not.
He didn't.
I didn't, which is fine. I don't know. I just didn't, but it really bothers me mentally. That could have been the last time I saw my family, and I would have never known. And then to hear the stories of them telling me of the thing, like my son's got a video that, what was it, Saturday, I guess, in ICU. I was still out. And there was a hockey game on, and me and my son watch the Blues games every time. We're big fans of it, you know. And so my son told the nurses, it was written on the board in the ICU, if the Blues are playing, please turn the game on for Dad. And so my son's got a video of watching the Blues game, and I'm out, you know, got the tubes in my mouth, and I'm out. But my son's like, hey, Dad, got the Blues game on. I know you would want to watch it, you know. And
like commentated the whole thing.
And like watching that stuff was very hard, very emotional. To hear the stories, to hear the stuff that they went through that never would have crossed. I mean, I would have had no clue to it. And I think that bothers me emotionally, that it could have been the last time I saw my kids, that Friday morning, that Friday afternoon, whatever it was, could have been the last time I saw anybody, you know. And I think, I don't know which is harder, like the fact that they went through what they went through, and then sometimes like what I like this is another thing too. My thoughts ever since this has happened, he
loses his.
I lose my track of thoughts, of words,
and then he gets frustrated,
and I'm getting emotional.
It's been really hard for him to hear the stories, just for the fact that he just didn't know, and
Right.
it's almost like every time he does hear it, it's almost like the first time hearing it again, or going through it. I don't think rating who had it harder is fair. I think in different different aspects, everybody's mental psyche afterwards was affected, whether it was yours in the sense that it was, which is different than probably mine and your mom's and Layton's and even my grandparents and my family and stuff. I think it was equally hard for everyone in their own ways. Again, and I always told him, so all said and done, he was in the hospital for 5 days. I'll go back to Brandon. So Brandon was there when they came out and said that he made it. And I looked at Brandon and I said, Brandon, he made it. Go play your show. And Brandon told me that he couldn't leave again. Like, I'm not leaving you. And I literally like grabbed his face and I was like, go play the show. I was like, he's fine. I will keep you updated. Like, everything's ready to go. This is what he would want. Regardless of what's going to happen, transpire with him, this is what he would want. So Brandon went and they played the show, and he said it might have been one of the hardest shows that he ever played, but that show went on that night. they did a whole tribute to, when they got on and then kind of explained the commotion going on in the parking lot as the show started, and did a whole like raise your glass to Jeff, and Diamond really showed up and showed out for you that night, and afterwards too. A huge thank you to Topher, Johnny, and Michael, the owners of Diamond Music Hall, who dedicated one of their show nights as a benefit for Jeff. And it was pretty amazing and selfless of them to do that for us. And so I think them in person.
I saw Topher. So that was like last Sunday, I think it was. 2 Sundays ago. I don't even remember the date it was.
It's been like 4 weeks now. It's fine.
Anyways, it's I remember telling Topher, I said, hey man, I really appreciate, what you guys are doing for us. And Topher says, well, it's the least I could do for you not dying in our parking lot. I was like, I appreciate you not dying in our parking lot. And I was like, yeah, me too.
So we've been able to laugh about a lot of things and definitely like make some jokes through it. So, but definitely our humor kept us going.
Sure.
So, we're in ICU, and Saturday we're still in ICU, and so the plan is that for 24 hours we are going to cool his body down to 90. I want to say 95 degrees. It's pretty cold if you think about it. And so they had this whole ice suit on him from top to bottom. The only thing not iced down was his head. And the reason for this is because basically it puts all of your major organs to sleep. Just kind of like idles them, while the 2 organs that needed the nutrients and the curing and stuff, which would have been his brain and his heart, it allows all of the blood flow to go to the things that needed it at that time. So for 24 hours, he was being froze out. He was violently...
apparently I was getting upset with the nurses at this time, or the procedures.
No, you weren't up yet.
Well,
you didn't
fighting.
know. No,
not yet.
No, he was completely out, but his body was going into convulsions. They thought that he was seizing, like having seizures, which would point to things going on in the brain, which at this time we think that there's major brain problems. So they started him on seizure medicines through his drip, and never...
This is where my mom's like, it's because he's cold.
It's never
get this crap off of him.
The seizure medicines weren't helping. He's still shaking and convulsing. So, basically, for 24 hours, he shook, and it was hard to watch.
Sure.
It was hard to watch because there was nothing that we could do to help him, and 24 hours after that, they automatically start warming your body back up to regular temperature. And so the first 24 hours of him being cold happened. The seizure medication he's getting the whole time, they were giving him Keppra, wasn't helping the shaking or the convulsions. And as soon as his body got back up to, a little bit warmer, and the frigid starts coming off of him, all of a sudden the shaking stops. Like, the guy was just fucking cold.
My mom's like, he's freezing. Of course he's going to shake.
She's like, he hates being cold.
And I do.
So
it doesn't take much for me to shiver.
I mean, the good thing with the seizure medication that he was taking, it was no harm, no foul. It didn't hurt him if it wasn't seizures, but it would help him if it was. So, it was what it was on that part. So as soon as he warmed up, he calmed down, and we never had to see him shake again. So 48 hours, he warms up. Or, 24 hours of warming up, he's at the temperature that we want him to be. So day 3. in ICU, we are going to start weaning him off of the Michael Jackson drug is what he got to take.
Yeah. Don't Michael Jackson me. Propofol. Propofol, whatever.
I'm so bad at
names.
these,
Doesn't matter. Just the
medication
Michael
thing.
Jackson.
But yes,
drug.
it was
Sedation.
he was on the Michael Jackson drug. That was what was keeping him out.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start taking off all these drugs, and we're gonna see if he wakes up. During these 3 days, many doctors had told us, like, don't expect him to wake up. You know,
Right,
we
they
plan
got-
the brain things.
Right. They got to
and-
prepare you for the worst too.
They do, but they were very much letting us know that they were not optimistic.
Sure. Well, right, and you're thinking 45 minutes with no oxygen, or
Correct.
little oxygen from CBR and like everything else.
Correct.
I don't know how many times I heard just after I woke up in those days that I did was competent enough to know. I can't tell you how many times I heard, I can't believe you're here.
Right.
I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to you and you're not.
In the first 2 days of him being in ICU, so that would be Saturday and Sunday, he had between 130 and 150 visitors.
They had a sheet just for me because so many, like when you go in and check in, you have to tell them who you're here to see.
Right.
And we had,
I tried to get the sheet,
we had
tried to get a
nurses-
copy of it. I was
They
shut
wouldn't
down
let you.
because of HIPAA.
right.
I'm like, this is our like what?
Right.
Like, I'm not asking for anyone else's information.
Right. But yeah, apparently they had to put a whole separate sheet that was just for me because we had so many people coming in and visiting. And we had somebody asked
His mom,
My
your mom
mom-
was questioned.
if I was, who am I? Is this a famous celebrity? Like, who is this person?
Right.
Who is he? And my mom's like, he's just a loved guy.
Yeah.
Just somebody that's loved.
So, I mean, definitely the whole family felt it. I mean, everybody's churches showed out. All of our friends showed out. All of our family showed out. I was never left alone. I was never left without food. I was never left without making sure that I was taking care of myself and getting to go home. And, yeah, somebody was always with him 24 hours. So he was never alone. And it really helped me through just the amount of people that I got to see every day, and regardless of what he was going through, like, laughs were still being had in the waiting room.
Sure.
You know, we were still able to find our way, find the light through that. Definitely that helped a lot. So again, back to thanking our friends and family and everyone who showed up for us, and the donations and the foods and the snacks and just everything, everything from the get-go.
So what's I think we kind of switched, but they're bringing off the sedation and doctors are preparing you for outcome and stuff.
Yes.
But what?
So we were given 3 options of what was gonna happen. The least likely, however, the best option was if they pull all this medicine off and he wakes up in the first 24 hours, then we do not have to go through any further brain scannings, because that's going to tell them that his brain is functioning. The most likely, or the second most likely, or the one that they were hoping for, was that he was going to go 2 to 3 days before he woke up. Then there would be minimal brain damage, but he would still need a brain scan to see where it was. But he would still probably have some kind of delays from brain damage and things like that. But for the most part, more functioning than the third option, which is what they were really heading towards, is that he doesn't wake up within 7 days. And if he doesn't wake up within the 7 days, then we have to talk about, is he going to live the rest of his life on these machines, or are we going to turn him off? Again, they're not being very optimistic. They're not really going for that number one option. There was something.
This guy was, though.
There's something oddly perfect that day. Just the whole vibe everybody was in a great mood. He had already exceeded all things that he wasn't supposed to.
Was I responding to things at this point?
No.
Like, was that...
No.
When did I respond with the thumbs up and all that? Was that...
As they started
Waking me up?
waking you up. So they start pulling the medicine. And one of the things is they're going to ask him to give him a thumbs up. If he responds with a thumbs up and then another thumbs up with the other hand after they give him cues, he's fine. So they start pulling him off and he does the thumbs up first. Now he still has the tubes and he still has all the things and he's still very groggy, but now he's hearing us and does the thumbs up. After the thumbs up, they decide to pull back a little more on the medicine. So let's try to get him to open his eyes and see where we're at with that. They also warned us that for anyone coming off of something like this, that who has tubes down their throats, the first thing they do is, and it can get violent because they want to pull these tubes out. That's the first thing. What is this and why is it here and get it off of me?
Sure.
So the more they would release the more they would take the medicine away, he would. So the first one was very violent and he definitely tried pulling the tubes. Well, they're not going to continue doing that because that's no longer safe for him. So immediately they just like pumped him with something else and then he's just back out. And they're like, all right, we'll try again in about 45 minutes. So they let him like recoup 45 minutes and then they kind of start releasing it again. The second time is still violent. I was close this time, and
Is this when I grabbed you?
The target, not the cute one. This was the violent one. Like he grabbed me by my neck, the neck of my shirt, and like did this whole like twisting thing and like pulling me towards him. Where 2 doctors had to come between us and break him off of me. I'm glad it was me and not somebody else because again.
Remember.
I
remember none of this.
Yeah, he doesn't remember any of this. And so at this point, they're like, okay, it's only getting more violent each time. So we got to come up with something. So that I think by the second, third time, they're like, oh, we're going to give him some ketamine. So this will make him way calmer whenever he comes off. And it did. And he's upset that he doesn't remember his K-hole that he was in. But, so this was all 3 hours. Within 3 hours of taking him off, he was waking up. And I
wasn't.
After they gave him the ketamine, so this is the third time they tried. Third, I think they did 3 times. The third time they tried, he was calm.
Yeah.
And then he was able to get the tubes removed. And ketamine was very, very nice. And everybody was amazed because that's it. He's awake now, and it was in the first 3 hours. So he already beat all the things that the doctors didn't think that he would. And so we're counting on, at this point, no brain damage and no brain scans have to be done. And now we're just going to recover and see what happens from there. So he was still groggy. I mean, he still didn't fully imbibe. When they say wake up, they literally just meant like do the thumbs up, open the eyes.
Sure.
I do remember one of the times that they were taking him off of it, tubes were still in his throat. He was able to mouth what the fuck with the tubes in his throat still. And I was able to read his lips perfectly fine.
Right.
I think that was the first time that I was like brain to mouth concept is good.
Sure.
That's good.
Yeah. You've got some videos you showed me.
I do. I'll play some audio of the video.
Yeah.
It's more of the next day.
It's very. I mean, my eyes are closed while I'm talking to you.
It is later that day. It's later that day,
and it's
so
very.
He had the tubes in his throat, so he's very hoarse and very. He recognized me immediately. In fact, so this is still daytime hours. So our family's still there. Everybody's still there. Everybody's trying, like, kind of coming in and seeing him awake. He's not really awake, but everybody is catching like highs, and he's still very confused when he wakes up. I mean, I say the first 24 to 48 hours after he woke up is pretty much the days that I'm like, it was a mix between 51st Dates and Groundhog's Day. I mean, it just repetitive questions within minutes apart and just not remembering the answer that was given and I'm like, okay, is this going to be our new normal? Like,
so yeah,
what am I going home
she does
with
she does have a video that she showed me, and it's like, she's like, hey baby, she's like, you had a heart attack, and I'm like, I did. She's like, yeah. And then I'm just quiet and I go, did I have a heart attack? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I did. She's like, yeah, but you're okay. A few minutes later, what are we doing here? You had a heart attack. I did. Yeah. Like that's how it was from what I can see, the videos I've seen and stuff. But
so that same day that he woke up that night, regular room on a regular floor, we're out of ICU now. Mind you, in ICU, they're in there every 45 minutes. They are one nurse to two patients, or one nurse to two rooms. So they're very attentive in there. They're very good in ICU. They took very good care of him. He made friends without even being
awake.
Like he had nurses coming in to check out his tattoos that weren't even his nurses because the other nurses had told them about them.
Yeah, apparently I had.
And he was just making friends, and so we left ICU and we get to go to a regular room, and he recovered in the regular room for the next about 2 days.
How long was it? Because I remember Wednesday we came home.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and on Wednesday he was released to go home.
And Tuesday at around...
It would have been Wednesday morning at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah. So sometime Wednesday morning in between midnight and 3 o'clock, I say in between midnight and 3, but it was more, I remember specifically, and the only reason I remember this is because it truly is my very first memory I have of everything. Growing up, PBS, I loved Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Painting with Bob Ross, right? I woke up and had the TV on, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, Bob Ross was on my TV in the hospital. And I woke up and I watched it, and that's the first thing I remember. And that was Tuesday night into Wednesday morning.
Yep.
And that is my very first memory of really remembering.
So yeah, your first memory was at 3:30 a.m. that morning. 11 hours later, you were discharged home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And discharged. So with discharge, they have PT come. Well, first they had OT come in, and OT does your daily living stuff. So can you dress yourself? Can you brush your own teeth? Can you do these daily livings? And they're like, here's a toothbrush, here's a toothpaste, show us what to do. And he walks in and he brushes his teeth, and OT passes him, so he doesn't need OT. Perfect. So then PT comes, and they're like, all right, well, I mean, you've been unconscious and laid out for 5+ days, and let's see how far you can walk and how much physical therapy you might have to go to a rehab facility and stay there for a couple weeks until you get your strength back up. And he walked the entire circle inside of the hospital floor, and then up an entire full flight of stairs and back down and back to his room. And he left with a PT order, but after checking in with our PT specialist that actually works with me at where I work, we decided that he really didn't need it. He was going to exceed their expectations just walking in the door. And that's kind of where we're at with cardiotherapy. It's another rehab, but it's just for cardio stuff. So they would do more aerobic things. The cardiologist told him if he wants to do it, he can. He was like, but you're going to outgrow them and they're going to be holding you back, because he's already back to normal daily things. I mean, yes, he has the 6 broken ribs, so he's a little sore and takes things a little slower and needs to rest a little more. But this morning we went back to work.
For the first time, I went back to work today. We worked 3 hours and it wore me out. But the worst part is normally I've been wearing a brace too. I have a wrap for my ribs, and I'm not wearing it tonight. And it's one of the first.
Oh yeah, let's back up to that. So on Wednesday, they discharge him to go home, and the cardiologist discharges him, so he gets all of his new heart medications, and he's on a ton of. The guy took 2 medications before, and now he takes like 12.
Yeah. Literally.
But I didn't get any discharge from the house doctor about his ribs or anything like that. And they're like, oh, well, just take some Tylenol for it. Okay. So up until we left, they were still, treating him through his IV with his pain medicine. So they shot him up real good right before discharge. And he was feeling pretty good coming home, like really good.
I felt really good Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah. And
I'm treating it with only Tylenol and
they sent me home with
ibuprofen.
no pain medicines. None whatsoever.
By Thursday night, Friday morning, 1:15 a.m., Jeff is in excruciating pain.
Couldn't breathe.
His broken ribs, by the way, are the ribs right around his heart. So unfortunately, not only did he just have a heart attack and have that scare, but now he has broken ribs in that same area. So every time there's a hurting pain there,
it
triggers him to think that he's having a heart attack.
Anxiety and I panic.
So his pain level was so high and no longer being controlled with Tylenol. With it hurting right there, he immediately went into thinking that he was having another heart attack, which sent him into a panic attack, which then hyperventilation, and he passed out on me again.
Yep. Right on our steps here.
Yeah, we were getting ready to walk him out to the car because
Fortunately, my son was here.
Drive him back to the emergency room, and we didn't make it. He fell out on the stairs. I was able to again save him, and I somehow maneuvered myself in front of him so he did not fall.
I would have bashed my face on the stairs.
And your ribs.
And my ribs, yeah.
And
I don't remember.
So I'm just.
I don't remember a lot of Friday night either.
He only lost consciousness for 20 seconds, luckily, because at that point I did not know how I was going to do CPR on him again. Right. I don't know if physically, mentally, my body would have let me do it.
I think I literally passed out from shock.
We did.
I was in so much pain hyperventilation.
You had hyperventilated yourself. And I kind of knew all of this, but it was also trauma for me because I had just done this a couple of days ago. And I knew that you had the 6 broken ribs, and I don't know if I could have done that. So we get back to the emergency room. They shoot him up with a bunch of pain medicine there and ask me why I didn't pick up his prescriptions.
For pain meds.
For pain meds.
And she said...
He never got
She said, what prescriptions would that be? And they're like, well, the one, she has the whole list with her because she brought all of the paperwork. She's like, you mean this list that doesn't have one single narcotic on it? Like, and they're like, whoa, you weren't prescribed anything? And she's like, no, he was prescribed Tylenol and ibuprofen. So long story short, they finally decide to give me some hydrocodone or oxycodone, and, was sent back home. I think we were back home Friday morning by like 6 o'clock or something. I didn't get rechecked back in. I was able to be discharged from
So we only went to the ER, and then he got to come back that Friday later morning. On that morning. And then at
had the pain medicines 9 o'clock,
I picked up the pain medicine. And so I was able to stay on top of everything for him. Pretty sure I still hadn't slept at this time.
Yeah.
I was running on adrenaline still and getting ready to fall out at any time. My daughter was home from college, thankfully, and just managed she literally drove for me for that.
I gotta say, Tessa was amazing, and I remember the first couple of nights, like when I came home, I remember barely as I was fading in and out of sleep and awake, Jenn and Tessa were going through my paperwork and like going through my medicine, like getting all my meds together. Tessa's Jen's like, I remember hearing Jen be like, all right, we need to do this, this, and this. And Tessa's like, I'll take care of it, Mom. You go do this, and they went and did all the grocery shopping for food that we needed. Cause I've changed my whole diet. Like, and again, my diet, if anybody knows, I mean, I like my sweets. I like my cakes and my candies and stuff, but I'm not, again, I didn't fit the prototype of to have this heart attack. Like, I mean, I've got this book that Jen got me. It's recovering after a heart attack and a stent, basically recovery after having a medical heart procedure. And like she said, you read all these things and these standards, I don't even fit in these categories. And so I just remember how good of a job they did with all the stuff. And I just can't thank them. I can't thank everybody enough for being here for us throughout it all. So
For sure, yeah. I really having the support system around,
yeah,
it's huge. So
yep, it is.
Well, I am incredibly grateful you were still here. We it's pretty crazy, to think that all that happened, and then you're out of the hospital within a couple of days. It's like it's pretty wild story.
I think the weirdest thing for me again is to hear all the stories that I don't remember, and to again, I mean, I've been told, listen, wherever you stand in your religious beliefs, whether you believe in God or a higher power, or like Jen said, your good juju, the good vibes, I without a doubt know that there was something playing out for me greater than any of us in this, because the odds of me being here were under 50%.
Right.
I mean, I had a 40% chance of making it or less. I'm
pretty sure it was 8% at some points.
See, I don't even know my number. It's just,
crazy.
And it's mind blowing. And then, like I said, to hear, I would see my doctors that saw me in the ICU, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a miracle." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." That she is, and the doctors and everybody that I just happened to be lucky to make it through, because I think the hardest thing for me is realizing that my life could have been over just like that. And I wouldn't have, it would have been no different. I would have never known. I would have.
So I do have it set up for in February. He will get to go to the St. Charles County Ambulance District and meet all of the EMTs that were on scene that night. I talked to their guy, Kyle.
Kyle, yeah.
Their guy,
Which
Kyle.
I know Kyle through working through the senior living. So
Right.
Small world
and connections. But talking to Kyle set everything up for us. We get to go to a meeting and get to give our thanks to them. And that's something that they don't always get to see the full circle either.
Sure.
And they didn't have high hopes either. I mean, they see these things all the time.
Right,
and
yeah.
The chances of getting to meet that person alive and in this standing is almost.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, to be able to say thanks. I mean, I can't thank enough for those that are listening that came up and visited, sent cards, sent food, love. I mean,
that's another thing. I want to thank Tony Willingham, T-Bone, for the GoFundMe. No, he didn't ask.
WWJD.
There was no permission given for him to do that. When you have friends like that, they just know. And he set that up on his own. Without that, excuse me. And the stuff from Diamond, as I said earlier, we don't have insurance, which is something we're in the midst of working on right now after this, unfortunately. But and so there are some medications that he's recently been prescribed that he has to take to keep him alive right now that are really expensive. There's no generic brands for them. Without those things being put in place for us, and I would have never asked for it to happen. I'm one to more like, I don't know, figure it out on my own other ways. That's been something that I haven't had to worry about right now. All those funds are going to the medications that he needs to keep him going until we can get some insurance and get them covered that way. So from the bottom of our hearts, we're thankful and thank you for that.
Yep. And Facebook, I tell you, if you guys, I've really stayed off of Facebook, especially ever since it's happened. Nothing personal. Again, it's hard for me to read, and it's hard for me
there's not only a physical recovery, but there's a mental recovery too.
Sure, yeah.
So I apologize if like you guys have messaged me and I don't respond. Jen has done such a great job keeping everybody informed that I feel like if you don't know what's going on right now, then you know, I don't know where you've been, but
then we're not close enough friends.
Right. Yeah. But no, I do want to again just thank everybody and thank you, Shane, for having us come on and talk about this story, man. I appreciate it greatly.
I'm just glad it's got a happy ending and that we can share this story today. And you know, we obviously have a long road ahead of us still, like getting these ribs fixed and getting everything back on track. But we're, you know, it's I don't know, man. It's crazy. I'm just glad you're here, and I'm glad that all these prayers were answered, man. So.
Same. I will tell you one of the coolest things that we saw out of it is when we met with the cardiologist. He actually showed me the procedure. Like he's like, I've got video of me doing. So they did a cath up through my groin, my arterial artery. They went through my groin up through my heart and put the stent in, and he showed me the video of what he was watching it's an x-ray and you can see my heart beating and you can see the wire that's running up through my heart, and it's all this x-ray and it's the live video, and he's showing it to me, and he's like, see this little black mark right here? He's like, you should have veins that's where your blockage was. And he's like, now watch, you'll see the wire. And as soon as the wire pokes through the blood clot, the vein that was complete and put the stent in,
the artery,
all of a sudden the arteries just lit up. And like, it was so crazy to see. Cause like you're looking at it and you can see my heart and you can see some of the veins and the arteries in there, you know, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then he's like, now watch this. And you see him go right through that blockage. And all of a sudden you just see a whole spider web of veins just appear that wasn't there. And he's like, that's where your clog was. And so like half of my right side 75% of my heart
of your heart wasn't working.
But it was really neat to see. I mean, how many people get to see your own, you know, and I could see the wire going up through my chest and in through, and then he's like, you could see him push right through the black mark, and all of a sudden just like all these veins just showed up on my heart in the x-ray. It was really neat. It was a pretty neat video.
I had mentioned earlier about the video, playing the audio of the video when he first woke up, so I'll play a little bit of that just because I brought it up earlier.
Yeah.
You had a heart attack?
Did I really?
Mm-hmm. Really?
I had a heart attack.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. You're okay though. I mean, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna recover now. You feel it? Yeah. You're in some pain. Yeah.
That chokes me up.
Yeah.
What the fuck? He said.
Yeah. What the fuck?
See, my good old Jeff, though, that's what apparently my mom was telling me that even when I was out, when I was starting to wake up, I was still my typical self.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently my son asked me if I was okay, and I gave him a thumbs up, and the story they say it was like I was looking right through my son's soul, like looking into his eyes, and I don't remember, but I told my son I'm okay, and that's when my son knew that things were going to be all right, and I don't know, man. It's definitely put our life into a whole new perspective. At least
You just wake up different.
Yeah,
Right.
I view the world in a whole different way now. I really do. Like what was it, that Thursday morning when I came upstairs for the first time and I was sitting here looking out our back deck and I got emotional and sitting here, and it was just a beautiful day. The sun was beautiful. It was cold and shitty, but it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen.
Yep.
You know? And those are the things I think I have the hard time with, but as each day goes on and things get better, you try not to focus on the past, but definitely made a change in our life. So definitely eating better. I'm hoping I've got another 44 years. So,
We haven't had a cigarette in 25 days.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Quit smoking.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Eating a little better. We don't.
So it's little things, little
Little
changes.
things, yeah. Try to do less fast food.
Got to be forgiving of yourself too. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like especially with addiction and things, like people think like, oh, I had one drink or whatever. Now it's like ruined it. Like and it's like, well, you're still 25 days from where you were.
Right.
That's 25 steps from. You're not starting over.
Right.
You're already ahead of it.
You don't focus on the relapse. You focus on the moving forward from the relapse.
But yeah, I think all that's great news, and just like, hopefully, like I said, another 44 years, man.
yeah.
At least.
Well, and I tell you what, don't second guess yourself. If you ever, chest pains, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I would have never thought it, but I definitely will think about it from now on. I mean, you just never know. So if you've got things that are bothering you, don't push them off. Just,
Sure, listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself and listen to your body. And I probably should have done that too. And maybe we wouldn't have been in that situation. But we're here now, and now we're going to make the best of it. Yep.
And his heart's like he's 25 years old again. So.
Yeah, they said the chances of it happening again, because I had I had a lot of questions to ask my cardiologist when we went, like, why did it happen to begin with? And it comes to find out I have it. It's genetics. It's in my family. It's on my dad's side. We have heart disease. The doctor said I could have been born with just a very narrow vein, and it could have been from childbirth. It could have been who knows what. Basically,
as a male in your teenage years, your arteries automatically start narrowing as you get older, starting when you're a teenager. So that that artery could have
already been narrow to begin with.
Already been narrow, and then it narrowed more, and he's just been, good up until he wasn't, because it takes a very small clot to block that off. So basically, with all the questions on what could I have done, or what did I do or didn't I do, the answer is nothing. Mm-hmm. It would have happened, and it would have happened
regardless. So
whether
that's why
he was in Diamond parking lot or somewhere else.
Right.
So
that's why I say don't second guess yourself. If you're questioning it and you really feel, better safe than sorry. I would say that's. But I'm glad to be here. That's
And I'm glad Jen had the know-how to.
Yes.
Me too.
Educate yourself in CPR. Definitely, I'd say go get CPR certified if you don't have time or the means or whatever to actually get the certification. I'm not going to lie. It's not that hard. Right. If you just YouTube it and know what to do, you don't even have to give breaths anymore.
Yeah, you don't even put your mouth on it anymore.
People ask me, well, that's your husband. Did you? I didn't. I did compressions only because
that's all they say. That's all
I have to do.
You have to keep blood pumping to the.
I've been CPR certified probably for the last 15, 20 years of my life. It was something that I always did. And so I was originally taught, to do the breaths and the compression. It was a little harder and there was a little more to it. I started compressions and I didn't stop. And that's apparently what saved him and what makes me the hero. Mm-hmm. But, so if I can encourage anyone to do anything, even if you don't go get certified, at least YouTube it and practice on a friend, find that find that sternum and find where your hands go and learn those compressions, and
Might save somebody's life.
you might save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And it might be your husband, your brother, your
Best friend,
your
whatever.
dad, your best friend, or stranger. But the fact of the matter is, only 1 in 9 people receive CPR outside of an actual professional medic giving it. So those people already die before the medics even get there. But because I had started it before the medics got there, that is what kept him alive. So learn your CPR.
Do it.
Yep.
Do it.
Yeah, man. Well,
There was no AED. There was no other things there to help it. It was just me and him against the world that night. So
yeah.
Yep. And we kicked ass.
Hell yeah. Well, I really glad that we did this. I'm glad you were shared your story with us, and like I said,
Appreciate it.
maybe it'll make a difference in somebody else's day. Like I said, go out there and get certified and everything else, and make a
Sure.
difference. But
thanks for having us.
but yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys, and I love you guys.
Love you
love
too,
you.
man. Appreciate you doing this.
Yep. But hopefully next time we'll just have fun.
Yeah. Hey, I had fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's sad
a
stories to
heavy
tell.
story.
It's a heavy story, but
emotional.
But it's again, I'm looking
the
at
positive,
life
yeah, the positive outlook. I mean, you
so
can't-
differently.
Yeah.
I don't not want to share the story.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to overshare it, but I don't not want to share it. Even if
It's been a real emotional roller coaster with it. We've really talked about it, and when you hit us up and asked if we'd want to be, Jen looked at me and she's like, how do you feel about that?"
Right.
And I said
I
at
knew
first,
it was going to be a lot.
at
of
first
me
I was like,
explaining.
I don't want to, but I do because I know that, like you said, hopefully it can help somebody.
He didn't want to cry on the mic.
I know that too. It's
We got the power to edit. But no, I thought, being your friend, I know that you enjoy this. I thought it might help maybe feel a little bit more normal getting behind a mic again. And
does.
kind of
Yep.
does.
I shared way more with you than I would have with Fox 2, by the way.
Right.
but,
They still haven't called me.
Yeah. But well, Malcolm Davis. Yeah, where are
Elliot Davis.
Or Elliot Davis, yeah.
right.
There it is. I don't watch them.
I don't know. We're not.
You paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
paid.
did.
Elliot Davis.
Elliot Davis.
You
yeah.
paid for it.
But no, I mean, like I said, I thought, it'd be good for all of us just to sit down and. But
I would like to see you do some more like these. I mean, I like the band interviews and stuff, but I like the
Like the real shit.
the real shit. Yeah,
Sure.
the real talk stuff.
The
too.
real life. And then definitely, I mean, this could be a mental health thing too. I mean, because definitely that's there. I mean, we've talked about. I've always been told you need to wait at least 6 months after a traumatic experience before you start seeking therapy or going to therapy about it, because it takes about that long for you to process things. But we've definitely talked about the mental health aspects of it, of coming out of it, and for both of us, and and what that looks like and what that can look like in the future. So it's real. I mean, even though he's good and he made it and everything should be all well and happy, like there's mental things that are there of the things that happened.
The things of the things of the things. Yep.
yeah,
It's not a bad thing. It's just I'm always for therapy anyway. So in any matter, I've always kind of talked about that, and don't be afraid to
Mental
seek
health
therapy.
is just as important as physical health.
right. Yeah. Well, you got like we said, you got a lot of people around you that care, and so if you need anything, people got your back, and
that's been shown
right.
1,000-fold more than I ever could imagine. And again, I can't thank you guys enough.
Can't wrap his head around.
Yeah.
I can't. Why me? What? I'm nobody.
Well, I wouldn't say that. You guys done a lot for a lot of people around here. So, it's. I believe in karma. You know, you put good out there and
Absolutely,
it comes
yeah.
back. And,
Yep.
you know, you,
And for all that, you know, it kind of just showed that like you're a good person.
right.
Yeah.
And you've done very good things, and you've touched a lot of lives and people. And I mean, it was new friends, old friends, people from your childhood. I mean, just all walks of life, and it didn't matter who was who. Everybody just came together.
Right.
Yep.
It was quite amazing. I, in a sense, wish that you could have seen it or knew
Right.
exactly the amount of it. I mean, I try to share. I've tried to let him know everyone. I hope that I haven't missed anyone.
Yeah.
But it's pretty powerful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I say we do this again soon, and
Absolutely.
just as always, like I said, even on the circumstance, it was nice catching up with you guys and spending an evening over here with you. So
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll be a couple, I'm down and out right now. It's like I said, just went back to work for the first time today for just a couple of hours. Very simple, easy stuff, but it doesn't take a lot to wear me out.
Right.
So I still see a couple of weeks before we're back out in the scene again. So just know that we are around. I do see the Facebook post and I do try to react to them at least. But if I don't respond, it's because it's too emotional for me to respond right now and still have a lot of trauma.
we got plenty of time for that.
Yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll start being able to get back out in the scene a little bit more and be around. So
Yeah, he's gonna make sure like nobody bumps into
Right.
him or.
I got some shirts that say "Please don't hug me."
Yeah, right.
So that
Shout out to Danielle.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Shayna.
you.
Love you guys.
Love you,
you.
buddy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.